everyone, what is going on? Original with TCD here, bringing you the first ever Tuesday is Chess Day podcast. Tonight, I am joined by Honestly Sarcastic, aka Joe, Shane, and Manten, aka Cody. Guys, what is going on? Let's do a quick introduction of everybody. So if you're tuning in for the first ever Runeterra podcast, we can get to know each other a little bit. My background, I'm Drew W. with Arrowbrick Gaming. First ever CCG with Star Wars Destiny. I am the 2018 national champion of that, and I am diving headstrong into Legends of Runeterra right now. Shane, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, Shane or Sadappy. I don't have any fancy title like the rest of these folks over here, but I do have a two-time multiple regional champion and two-time deck, builder of a world's top-topping decks. So more of a deck player builder myself, but looking forward to it. So Cody, you're next.
Yeah, I played lots of TCGs. Obviously, the last one we played was Star Wars Destiny. Basically all together. That's how we started. Now we're moving into Runeterra because it's awesome. But I got second place at the same national championship that Drew in here got first place at, and then I've won a lot of regionals and placed well at lots of other tournaments. But then there's Joe.
Yeah, so I've been, the small game circuit for a really long time. If we don't go back 10 years, then it's only Destiny stuff. But if we go back, I was the original Naruto Nationals or World Champion. I won the first Continentals, which is essentially like Nationals for Star Wars Destiny in 2017. And then I'm also the 2019 actual National Grand Champion. I also top 4 at Worlds 2018.
Nice.
So
nice. Yeah.
Very
so
long.
what we're trying to sell you on right now is that we're all qualified card game players. That's what we're going for. We all have experience. We've all been grinding Runeterra together for the first time, and we also have a pretty good history of podcasting together. Also, we've had successful podcasts between both of the teams that from Star Wars Destiny that have kind of merged to do this Legends of Runeterra thing. So we're really excited to start bringing you some content. We think it's going to be really valuable to the community, and we're kind of looking forward to sharing our opinions on the game with everybody. Tonight, I think we're going to talk a little bit about our feelings of the game and maybe just some really early meta stuff. Nothing too deep, but I think let's just kind of roundtable it. What do you guys like about Runeterra? What is good about this game and what keeps you coming back? And I guess I'll open it up. I just like the graphics and the music. I mean, this is really basic. I just love them. I could just sit here and just listen to Runeterra music all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they've done a great job at one, the look and feel, and two, in the investment, right? I think you have this very polished game, even in the beta, with characters interacting, great ways of getting your own cards, right? The way you progress through the game, and then knowing that, but feeling like every day I'm doing something to get rewards and get something out of the game. I feel like they've really hit the notch for all the way from competitive to super casual, with feeling like you're invested in the game without really having to spend a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the draft mode. I think the draft mode is super fun. It's a great way to get cards as well. But being able to pick your champion and pick the 3, and then you progress, and every win or loss you get to add cards. I think that's a great strategy. I also really like the fundamentals of the game. I like the I take a turn, you take a turn. It's always been one of my favorite ways to play card games, even though it's kind of rare. And then just trying to learn the ins and outs of the game. Also, it's super polished. It's great to have a actual program you just open up, log in, you can play as much as you want, and grind indefinitely. So it's tons of fun.
So Runeterra is definitely in the long list of games I've played, and I'd say it's one of the closer ones to being a real strong systematic, even from the beginning. I guess it's been in beta for forever and a day, so it's kind of hard to gauge from there, but it really scratches my magic itch. And I got tired of Hearthstone. You have to spend so much on packs if you want to follow the new stuff, and it just didn't feel as good. I played Artifact. I loved that game, but it was just really hard to kind of play at the upper levels. There was just so much stuff going on. It messed with everybody pretty much, but the average person had struggled more to get into it. Where I feel like Runeterra is more basic at the beginning, and then there's a lot of next level stuff with the multifaceted actions. Where if you pass and then I pass, the round ended. So sometimes you're trying to pass and trick the opponent into playing something first so you could respond. And then sometimes they just go, well, if you're not going to do anything, we'll just go to the next one. I'm not even going to attack. Bye. And you're just like, oh, the plays.
The tempo is so good in this game.
Yeah.
Like I have so many times I've been playing, I'm like, I can't ever get tempo, or like I deny them tempo the whole game, and it just feels so good.
Yeah,
I really like match length in this game too. Like I feel like it's appropriate to where it's like you can play 10 matches in 2 hours sometimes, but occasionally you get that like 45-minute long match where you're like, dude, this is epic. Like I wish I was recording this. I wish people were watching it. Like you go really deep and like you can, it's like the capacity for comeback in this game is incredible. Like I can't tell you how many games I've won with my Nexus at 1 health. And that just seems, that's like, I think that's really good. And the other thing about that also is I think that translates well to competitive play.
Yep.
I think that makes it a really good viewing experience when you have that. And I think that's setting up for the long term. On that note also, I think it's really worth mentioning that it's a Riot made game also. And Riot really has the free-to-play model down perfect, where it's like the game is free to play. You can like League of Legends, you can play it for free forever, no problem. But the game is so damn good that you don't care about giving them your money 6 months later. And I really think that's like the idea of the free-to-play model, not the hey, it's free to play, but I'm gonna like rip at your wallet every 2 seconds. And I feel like this is in that wheelhouse where if you want to play this for free, you're going to be able to, but it's not 100% necessary.
Yep. I actually really also the spell mana. The spell mana has to be hands down one of the best things I've ever seen, because it kind of keeps you around, right? You can just decide not to have those early drops, those early spells, so that on the third turn you're boom. Oh, here's a 6-cost spell. I made a 5/5, and those people who went like 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drops were like, oh no, like how do I deal with this? What do I do? And you're just like, this is great.
I think it was what was it, like illegal contraption? Or, like, it was 6 costs.
Yeah,
like I didn't even realize it, but you were like, oh yeah, you can just drop that on turn 3. Like you can just drop a 5/5 on turn 3 if you save your spell mana. And I was like, yeah, that card's like trash. And then you told me about that. I was like, I didn't even think about that. Like how do you miss that when you're looking at the game? But it's such a strong mechanic to being able to bank your early mana for like that mid game. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge thing too. Like, someone's gonna hate deny, but if you skip 1 and 2, you have deny up. If you carve out the rest of the game, and it's like, oh,
yeah, it's cool. I think that's definitely one of the better mechanics. Is there anything you guys don't like? Like, is there room for Riot to improve in certain areas?
I'd say it comes with like the deck builder, like just the interface.
Yeah,
there's definitely stuff to work on. Like when you're let's say copying a deck code. One of your friends gave you, and then like it's showing red, but you don't know how many you're missing, and you have to like right click. And I think they've kind of already adjusted part of that with having numbers on the cards now. I think they hotfixed that, because before, like, you just looked at it and it was like max. Or
yeah, I still think it's wrong though. I think it's backwards, right? So like if you don't have a number at all, that means you have 3.
Yep.
If you have 2, you have 2. If you have 1, you have 1. And if you have 0, it's just grayed out. But if you imported a deck, it makes it look like max, because you can't add anymore because you don't have any more. So it's kind of weird. I think they should flip it a flop to be like always just show 3s and 2s and 1s, and then if there's no card, no card.
Yeah.
But these are minor things.
And Riot's already said in like one of their posts that they know they have to do a lot with their deck builder, and that it's really not good right now, and they have a bunch of changes coming for the deck builder. So they've already addressed it. Like they're aware it's not in like tip top shape like where they want it to be.
Yeah, and that kind of drags me back to my point earlier. If there is something wrong with one of their games, Riot fixes it. Like they know, they are very good at listening to community feedback and being like, hey, like this champion is busted in League of Legends, and being like, okay, this needs to be fixed, and they do it quickly. Like if there's a problem with the deck builder, I would expect within 2 months, Riot will have that cleaned up for us. It's not something that's going to linger. Like 3 years later, we're going to be sitting here talking about deck builder. And that's actually what really attracted me to Runeterra originally, is I was like, hey, Riot is an awesome company. They're going to make a great product. And like, if there's a problem or there's something that's not going well with the game, Riot takes care of it quickly. And, it basically, I've been playing video games, card games now for 20 years. And I don't think there's a company out there that's ever been better than Riot, short of, 1996 Blizzard. I think it's like in that tier of company.
With their model too, right? So because they're free to play, I'm more excited about it for like a competitive version where they can just, hey, that card's too powerful. Oops, we're changing it. We don't care if you spent 3 gold on that one champion, 3 gold cards, because we give you gold all the time, and you have ways to get this card all the time. So who cares about the value? There's no value in the cards per se, and so they can just make meta changes quickly.
I don't think I've ever felt that way playing a Riot game where they've like nerfed something and I've been like, oh yeah, I like paid like $5 for the skin on that champion. It angers me. Like I've never felt that way. So I wouldn't expect that in Runeterra either.
Well,
Right,
usually
but
for that it's a
they
scale
do,
back,
though.
right? Like they'll notch it back, and if they find out it was too bad, like they'll re-notch it back up. So like if they take away the last breath on Ledros, all of a sudden it'll be like no one's playing him. All right, well we got to find something in the middle. Like
Shuffle them back into the deck.
Are there any early cards that you guys do want to see nerfed? Like, is there like just like fire them out there that you think are just like way too good right off the bat?
I have to say, like, I don't actually have a lot of cards that I think should be nerfed. I have things that like could potentially be troublesome in later sets, but for like a base set and for like people who haven't played a lot of card games, like the base set of the game is usually only okay, and this base set of a game is like super good. It has a lot of depth, which we've seen with all these new decks continually turning out week after week, which is kind of unusual for like a first set. And I'm really excited to see what happens with like more sets coming in as well. But as like a base set, this is a fully playable game with a ton of depth, and that's super impressive for a card game.
Yeah, in beta too.
In beta, yeah.
I also like how few like useless cards there are.
Yep.
Like in physical card games, any of you guys that have done it before, you know that in a 160 card set, good 80 to 120, completely useless and trash.
Yep.
It's kind of
Yeah,
sad.
for sure. Yeah.
And like
It's
sure,
because we're not buying packs. Like,
Yeah.
since you don't have to buy packs, they don't have to make useless cards.
yeah. And also they can just make cards useless if they're just too good, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, but we're supposed to be talking about something we want to change. I think we kind of forgot that.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
think
I don't
there's-
complain. What do you want from me?
Well, no. I don't think there's anything to complain about. You guys all make fair points, right? This is very balanced. It shuffles through the meta pretty quickly. It seems like the only cards I think that need to be looked at are I don't know. I think everyone should have a deny, or nobody should have a deny. I would love to see a world where there's no denies. It's just just have your craziness that happens. I don't know. Judgments are always going off.
So there is an issue. Like if you look at Ionia and you look at the rest of their spells, it's a little bit of a cluster screw. When you try to pick other cards, you're like deny, Will of Ionia. Wait, what else is there? You're like Twin Disciplines. Yeah, I'm gonna get +3 on my guys. Like, wait, doesn't someone get that for 1?
I would like to see the cost of deny adjusted to scale with what you're canceling. Like, I don't think deny for 3 should cancel a 10 cost. Like, that's where I think it feels broken. Like, deny early feels really bad. Where you're like, oh man, do I like need to play a 3 for 3 right here and waste my deny? That feels bad. But when like somebody plays like Ruination late game and you're like, haha, I have my deny that I can play with my banked spell mana and then drop a 10 cost after that. That's where deny is just like, this card's stupid. Like, I'd like to see where it scales up in cost based on what you're canceling. I think it would put a little bit more skill on the card where like you need to bank mana based on what your opponent is going to play so that you can cancel it for deny. And it doesn't have to be like deny costs 10 to cancel a 10. But like, I think if you're going to cancel like a 7, maybe it goes to 4, and if you're going to cancel like an 8, 9, or 10, it goes to like 5 or 6 or something like that. Where there's like you have to invest a little bit more in your deny for it to go off in the late game.
I think right now deny is fine, primarily because there's so many burst cards, and the burst effects tend to be very strong in combat.
Yep, that's
Pump
true.
my guy, frost your guy, barrier the guy, and like they do that with good reason. So realistically, deny really only works on kill spells.
Right.
Yep. And I would say they need to be very careful with burst cards in this game. Like, they're incredibly powerful. Even ones that you look at and you're like, I don't think this card's that good. But then you see the burst text on it and you're like, oh, this card's really good. Just because it has the word burst on it.
Yeah.
And that's like a worrisome in the future, but I'm sure they'll handle it properly.
I don't that +8 +4 burst under Noxus. I forget what it's called, but that card is brutal. Where you're like, okay, I have 9 health. I'm not going to block like a 1/1 here or something like that. Like, I'm safe, and then you're just like, oh yeah, I just lost half my health.
Isn't that Freljord? That's a Tryndamere card, I thought.
Is it failure?
Yeah.
It's
Gotcha.
Battle Fury.
So
You're
the
right,
reason
okay.
like every single pump is burst and frost is burst is primarily because the way that they interact with stuff. Same with like barrier is that if you barrier burst to put on your guy and someone deals a damage card, you can't go put a barrier on top essentially where they get to deal the damage. Like if burst was fast instead, you'd be able to stack them on top of spells. Whereas with it, the way it is like, okay, you have a barrier, and now if I play two damage spells or like a ping after, then you lose your guy anyways. So if I do grasp on your 3 guy, you put a barrier, and then I'm like, all right, I'll violate. You're gonna lose your guy, and they did it on purpose. It's primarily because kill spells were really important and really strong. So if your pump spell didn't resolve right away, then the kill spells would be absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Instead you're holding out. You're like, I'm gonna vial that when he swings, and then he's like +3/+3, and you're like, oh.
In the vein of stuff to like maybe nerf is like, I can't think of a card to nerf, but they should probably look at Shadow Isles, since it is like the top of the meta pretty much everywhere. Mm-hmm. Like at the very tip top, it's always Shadow Isles and something. And that might just be because they have the most efficient cards, or they have the most direct removal, but they might want to look at the class as a whole to see if there's anything that they can notch down there.
So, like, tell me what you guys think about this, but I feel like in terms of the individual regions, I feel like Shadow Isles has the most depth to it, meaning you can construct the most wide variety of decks with Shadow Isles. Like, I feel like that is the one region where, like, you can literally say that almost every card is playable in Shadow Isles in one different deck type or another. Like, it feels like it's the most complete of all the factions to me.
Yeah, they have, like, what? Fearsome, Ephemeral, Control. I don't think they have like pure aggro, right? But you can probably find ways to get that pure aggro with another like Noxus.
Yeah, you fear some aggro with anything else.
Right. They have evasive, and they have ways to control evasive, right? With a lot of their direct damage stuff. So it's like I feel like Shadow Isles is the most complete of all the regions. I would agree with that.
Well, they don't have elusive on their own, but so I think the thing with Shadow Isles is a lot of their cards just have huge value, right? So if you vial, you pay 2. You dealt 1, you could have killed a guy, and you got a 1/1 on the back end, and you gained 1 health. So it's like, okay, that's fine. 3, deal 3, gain 3 health, cost 5. 7, just kill a guy. I think the big things is just that their top end is quite strong in comparison to everything else. You have Rasa, and you have Ledros, and you have Hecarim. So like that curve out there is like, here's a 6-drop who's going to try to swing for 10. Here's a 7-drop, my guy died, I'm going to kill your 2 weakest guys. But unless you have a big board of dudes, it's irrelevant. Here's Ledros. I'm going to cut your health in half, and this guy, gives inevitability. If we look at any of the other colors, they don't have guys with spells that can, just curve out like that with a lot of strength. And I think that's the big thing.
The other difference is, in order to get that from the other classes, you have to just like put your whole deck into that focus. Mm-hmm. And with Shadow Isles, you could just tack the top end, and this is what they've been doing at like the highest ranks. They've been tacking the top end of that into aggressive early game decks, just so they have something at the end. Mm-hmm. And you can't do that with like, hey, I'm going to run like Yasuo. Well, I need to make my whole deck focus around that. Hey, I want to run Heimer. Hey, I want to run Ezreal. Your whole deck isn't focused around that. And that's the real power of Shadow Isles, is you're just like, I can just take this part that I like from this, take this part from this deck that I like this, and every single one of them will match up together.
Yeah, because the guys work independently of the rest of them. So, like, Hecarim doesn't need a bunch of ephemeral stuff, right? Like, if the guys he made were 2/2s or 1/2s, until he got the pump, those guys are just really too small to really do anything. But he comes down at 6, he swings essentially for 10 as a 4/6 and 2 3/2s, and that's like a really strong position to be in, because at 6, there are guys that are 6/6, but they don't have like immediate value like that. So it's just like a lot of the guys just can't do it. Zed's a mini Hecarim, right? And like he's quite strong. The problem is he dies to like everything. What does Hecarim die to? Almost nothing.
Not a lot.
Yeah,
which is hard to do.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say about Hecarim to like kind of defend him as a character in terms of him like not being overpowered, I've been playing a lot of Hecarim Zed, which is why I'm bringing this up. It feels really bad blocking with Hecarim. Like he feels like it puts you in a spot where like he's almost not a blocker in most cases for his cost. Like if you try to block a 6 cost for Hecarim, like Hecarim loses that fight almost every time. So that's like the one downside to him, is like he doesn't really give you a strong blocker for 6 in the mid game.
Yeah, but I don't think any of the guys do that, right? So, like, Fiora's a 3-drop 3/3. Garen's a 5/5. Yasuo's a 4-drop 4/3. Yeah, Ashe is a 5/3. Brahms a little different. But it's just that, like, all of those guys, so his big thing is like, when he attacks, he gets that power. It's the same reason the quick attack guys are smaller, right? And, like, I'm not saying Hecarim's broken, he needs to be changed. I'm just explaining in general that the card's quite strong because 4/6 he's coming out with 10 worth of power, even though it's separated. And usually, just speaking, being separated is better there. He's big enough to survive most of the guys.
Right.
Yep.
So
and he doesn't need anything around him. Like you can just slap him into any deck, and he's still good.
Yeah, you just put him there, and it's a good 6 crop cost curve. Like I'd play him all the time because of that value Joe just said. 10 power for 6.
What do you guys think of the card Dawn Speakers?
I think it's fine.
That's the one where you die.
If you have a unit die, then you pump all of your other units +1/+1 at the end of the round.
Yeah, I think that's
fine. I think it was super good before. I think it's starting to fall off. And it's one of those cards I think you'll see come in and out of the meta over and over again, depending on how slow or fast it is, and how much trading is going on, and how much actual building of the board is going on. But I think the card as a whole, I think it's fine. Like you don't want to draw 2 of them. You draw 2 of them, you probably lose the game, and you will only want to play it on like 4. And that's only if you had an early game?
Well, you can get multiples of them and be really happy with it, but you have to hit curve, and then you have to have guys die. But they're playing it, you're in the challenger region with Demacia, and then they're playing it with, like, elusives and stuff.
And spiders.
Or spider version. So they're pumping all those guys up, they're generating guys, and, like, I think it's fine because it's slow, and it's its own inevitable deck. Right now, the game is just in such an early stage. It's going to take a while, A, to get the champions you need to build some of these other decks, and B, just for people to come up with, the meta counters. So, like, I worked on a list recently, who knows if it goes public or not, but it was Yasuo based, but it's not as heavy into, I want to flip my Yasuo, because those decks just die when your Yasuo's gone. Most of you're like, I stunned you, but you didn't really do anything else. So it's just like, it's based around making sure that you're big enough to fight with the fearsomes or just be ahead of them. And quick attack's a really strong mechanic when you're trying to go, you can't trade when I'm attacking, but when you're attacking, I can decide to trade. Good luck.
Yeah. Are there any... So let's talk about the titles, right? Like Fearsome, Quick Attack. Are there any of those that you value significantly higher than other ones right now? Like, what do you think is good and what do you think is bad in terms of the different titles?
If we're just going generic, I think Elusive's the number 1 ability.
Yep.
Then Fearsome.
No, I'd actually put Quick Attack next.
Really?
Well, so Fearsome makes your guy can't block. Like, the small guys can't block, right? But if there's a lot of Fearsome in the meta, you'd stop playing guys for the most part that are too small. So then what happens there is that your Fearsome's irrelevant, because if you hit curve and someone just has bigger guys, your Fearsome doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And that's what that is. But Quick Attack, on the other hand, is like scares the living crap out of you, because you can't block it with an even guy in trade. If your guy's bigger, you have to have a combat trick to back it up, because why would they have attacked you?
Fearsome to me feels a little bit win more, whereas Quick Attack to me is like when you're on even ground, Quick Attack feels great. Where it's exactly like you said, like you get to choose if you want to trade or not, and that's just a really powerful mechanic, I think.
So, like, let's say Quick Attack became meta, you would just see a bunch of 1/1s again that replace themselves. You'd see Aristocrats and Spiders, because they'd be like, I'll just block the Quick Attack guy every time he comes out. So it's always going to bounce around, and that's what's pretty strong about the game as a whole. And the elusives are just small guys usually.
I'm still in love with Tough, even though, like, it's not that great. I just see a lot of potential in it, especially when if the meta starts moving in a more spell heavy area. I really want to make a Tough deck work, because the value against spells is astronomical. We just need a couple more good Tough guys, or the meta to change a little bit. But, like, dropping a 5/5 with Tough is insane.
Oh, yeah, dude, are you talking about Radiant Guardian specifically? That card is nuts when it goes off.
Well, yeah, that card is amazing in everything. But
Yeah,
I just
so
like
good.
Tough. I like Tough a ton as a mechanic. I kind of want to make the little, like, the 1-cost burst give something tough. I want to make that work.
Vladimir.
Oh,
Vlad.
That's definitely interesting. Vladimir with the Tough deck. That's kind of cool.
It looked pretty bad when I saw it.
What do we think? Do we count like elusive or not? Do we count lifesteal inside of elusive?
Lifesteal's amazing.
Lifesteal's amazing. No, Lifesteal's separate. You're just thinking Kinko Lifeblade. That's your problem.
No, I mean, like everyone else. Like, I mean, ephemeral, right? They have ephemeral. Some things have ephemeral, some things don't. Like, some things have it lifesteal, some things don't.
Yeah.
So I think as a group collectively, we've kind of focused a little bit more on draft than ranked to kind of get things kickstarted and like getting cards in our deck and that kind of stuff. Are there any like cards you guys want to talk about in draft that to you are just like, hey, when I see that, I'm snatching that up 100% of the time just to kind of give people a little help with some of their draft decks?
Shadow Isles. If you see, like, even if it has bad cards in it, it's still in contention for you to take Shadow Isles, like, every time, because it's so powerful in draft. It's hard to counter in draft. It's some of the only direct removal, which is, again, super powerful in draft, and everything can work independently. Obviously, I'm not trying to draft, like, kill my own stuff strategy. I'm not trying to draft anything crazy out of there. All I want to do is choose and pick all of the best cards and just put that into whatever other deck I end up drafting. So I would say that. Also Teemo. I think you can make amazing Teemo decks.
Yeah, I was gonna say Teemo would be my pick because sometimes that draft thing just gives you the bonkers deck, right? Teemo, you're like, oh, I'm gonna do 200 puff caps every game, and nobody's gonna be able to.
I would pick Chump Wump and ignore Teemo completely.
Got the Chump Wump.
Chump Wump, because like it's like 4-drop 4/4.
So
It's like the stat on that is insane because there's so few guys carrying those stats right now. There's so many 3/3s, so many 3/2s. He eats up one of them. He puts 2 cards in your hand to pitch to all these discard things in your deck. Like I sit there with grips of mushrooms and I'm like, I'm not even gonna play these. Like I don't care about this puff cap damage.
What about the Kinku Lifeblade? Are you ever passing up that card?
I pass it a lot.
Yeah,
it just depends.
It's a really good card, but you can't fall behind and then want to play him and like catch up.
Yeah.
Like if we're at a point where we can trade guys, then Lifeblade's really good because if you get to hit me for 3 and then I hit you for 2, you've put me to 17, then I put you to 18 and I'm back to 19. You're actually losing the race because I've erased 2 of your damage.
Right.
So, your quick attack 3/2 is irrelevant, or 3/3 because Zed's coming in with another guy, is irrelevant if I'm hitting you for the 2 through the air. Elusive. I'm going to call it flyer, so I'm going to apologize now. I've played way too much Magic. Elusive is flying, and it's one of the best abilities on a unit without it technically being broken. You always get, like, understated units if you're getting that.
I draft a little differently as well. I'm always drafting for like worst case scenario. Like, yeah, you can draft like an aggressive elusive deck or like just an aggressive deck in general. But if your opponent just has something weird happen, you just get blown out and there is no comeback in the game. It's why I like to focus on like Shadow Isles and a ton of removal because it's like no matter what happens, I'm safe. I feel fine and I can come back from it. But that's just that's my personal draft style.
Yeah,
and even more than like normal ones because like, if you just draft, like, 1, 2s, 3s, oh, yeah, they might be really strong, and then some, like, top-end spells, so sometimes you're going to either not draw those, or you're going to draw them, and they're going to wipe your board, and then you're just so far behind in card advantage that you can never win.
Yeah, a lot of it's just value, and anyone that doesn't know, Manthan and I pretty much 7-win in every expedition that we do. I think I'm at 2 total sets of expeditions where I didn't hit a 7-win.
I'm at 3.
Yeah, so, like, we're free-rolling off of expeditions, but it's primarily like, don't go crazy. You want to have some early game to make sure that if someone plays rush, you're not getting run over. Because if you run into that twice, you just feel bad. You want to have pretty much a lot of mid game. You want to have a ton of these like 3, 4, 5 drops to make sure that you're kind of smoothing over things. And then you would like some late game. If you're like Noxus, you can kind of avoid it, but maybe like a couple 7 drops to was it Fang Reckoner because he can like overwhelm and kill a guy. But you're going to have, like, the Anivia late game decks. Realistically, what you want to do is you want to focus on the key synergy cards. So, like, Chump Wump's a huge synergy card for Piltover and Zon. Even if you're not playing Teemo, because you have discard outlets. You have the 2-drop that's discarding. You have, Zona Urchin, the 1-drop that discards, and filters. So, replacing cards in hand so that you can play those cards, get excited, and get value out of it is huge. Whereas, like, if you're playing Freljord, you want a ton of the Rimfang Wolf. The 3-drop 3/2, where if he fights a guy with 0 power, he just kills it. Because you have a ton of Frostbite, and he is Challenger. So he's just, like, good in general. There's lots of key synergistic units where if you're going into a specific region, you definitely want those.
As you can tell, we might have a lot of draft content coming to the channel.
Yeah. Joe, do you kind of want to take everybody through what our plans are for the channel? Give everybody like a little bit of overview of what we're planning to do because I think we're running about as long as we wanted to run today.
Yeah. So I'd say mainly what we're looking to do with the channel is we're gonna try to put out videos that catch you up in ranked for those of you that are interested. I'm only plat right now, but I don't go grinding hard. But But I'll do what I can, talk about the meta stuff, deck lists. We should be going over expeditions. I've been recording all of my expedition sets, so I'll post the full runs of all of the 7-win ones, with me talking about the deck choices and the cards and what I'm aiming for and which regions kind of work together based on the champions I'm seeing in the card pool. And then like if you guys decide you want, like, let us know. I can put up the failed one so you can see where I thought something was going to be good and it went wrong. Because a lot of the time, if I get 7-win on the first one, I'm going to experiment on the second one. I want to test out different stuff and see how things going. You just don't want, like, stuff's going to evolve. People are going to get better. It's not as simple as, oh, I 7-win everything. At some point, you would fall off if you don't continue to try to get better. And I'd say past that, we just want to put, out general content for you guys so that you can get a feel for the game, enjoy what's going on. If you're struggling, to get through ranked or just get your wins in, we'd like to see you guys do better. Also, just like tips and tricks. Just there's the like small things you're just not really aware of. Like the combat, if you got Darius, he's probably the last attacker, because if someone gets in there and drops a 10, he's taking that flip and he's going to the face.
Yep. And also, I don't know if there's a lot of people like this, but I assume there is. Like, the more I understand something, the more I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And so I always say when people get discouraged at the beginning, like maybe something bad happens, or they're not getting it, or it takes them a little longer, or they can't play as much as other people can. But once you get to like a certain threshold of knowledge, I feel like it gets even more enjoyable. All the little things are just better and better and better. And I like to see more and more people get to that step as well. And even myself improve as much as possible.
I felt that way about TFT with our group, where I was like, yeah, everybody's loving TFT. And then a lot of people just started like, they got like hard stuck, like gold and silver. And they were like, oh, I don't like TFT anymore. I'm like, guys, this game's so great. Like, grind TFT with me. Now I'm the last soldier.
I would have too much time playing Runeterra, man. I'd play.
I think
I was on an uptick too.
I got gate kept at Diamond? I think I was Plat 1 and I was about to hit Diamond, and then like I couldn't make it, and then they changed the game up and I was like,
you didn't go to season 2 or whatever.
No,
it was way better, way better. Like, I love season 2 better. Anyway, that's TFT. But
Ocean Midge is big.
I hope I hope this content like we make here is just really to bring a community together. I think all of us have different strengths here to help each other out and help people get better at the game. Hopefully, build a community with the people we know, possibly, and people we have yet to meet. I know we're all just really easy talking guys that will help each other to get better and better, and help other people get better. So I hope you guys will comment on our videos, ask us questions. We're all about trying to just have a community here.
Yep.
Any final thoughts from anybody before I wrap here?
Nope.
Good to go. Shane, Joe, Cody, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Hopefully we'll have Bobby Sapphire with us in the coming weeks here. And don't forget,
never skip chest day.